Regarded as the first successful semi-automatic shotgun design, the Browning Automatic 5, more commonly referred to as the A5, was designed by John Moses Browning in 1898. And as with many of Browning's designs, the A5 was decades ahead of its time and was produced continually for nearly 100 years, with production coming to an end in 1998. In this series by Brownells, we'll show you step by step how to properly disassemble, clean, lubricate, and reassemble the original Browning A5. Before getting started, I'd like to preface this series by saying that the A5 was not designed to be quickly disassembled and is not the easiest of jobs. Also, Browning utilized ultra-thin screw slots, and I've seen more often than not A5s with screws damaged by owners using the wrong screwdrivers. So with that being said, we highly suggest taking your gun to a qualified gunsmith. Or if you're doing the work at home, do yourself a favor and pick up a Brownells Browning A5 screwdriver set. This affordable and convenient kit contains 4 slotted thin bits precisely matched to fit all the A5's external screws. So now that we have the proper bits, we'll also need a 3/32 inch punch, bench block, and a hammer, and we're ready to get started. As always, we'll do a quick safety check by engaging the safety and pulling back the operating handle to lock the bolt rearward. With the gun now safe, we can begin by removing the magazine cap. To do so, rest the buttstock against the bench and pull the barrel slightly to the rear to relieve the pressure so the cap can be unscrewed and removed, followed by the forearm and barrel. Now the recoil spring, friction piece, ring and spring are exposed and can be removed. It's important to note with the barrel removed, care must be taken to avoid pressing the carrier latch button inadvertently. So to close the breech block, grasp the operating handle before pressing the carrier latch button and ease the breech block forward. If allowed to slam forward, you risk damaging the receiver. Next up, we'll take off the stock by removing the 2 screws on the lower tang, starting with the smaller lock screw, followed by the stock screw. With these removed, we'll go ahead and secure the receiver in a vise with padded jaws. Then we'll use the palm of our hand to hit the comb and bump the stock free and set it aside. Now we can remove the trigger group. Begin by removing the 2 sets of screws on the lower left of the receiver, starting with the lock screws. The trigger group is now free to be removed from the receiver. With it removed, next we want to locate the V-shaped carrier spring. It can be located in one of 2 places. On more modern examples, it'll be mounted to a post on the left side of the trigger group. However, if you have an earlier gun like we have here, the spring will be located on a post inside the receiver. To remove it, detach the spring at the front and slip it off its post. Now we're ready to remove the carrier pivot screws on either side of the receiver, and as always, we'll start with the smaller lock screws. Once removed, the 2 sections of the carrier can be removed downward. Note that on earlier pre-war guns, the carrier will be a single part versus 2 sections like found on this gun. Moving on to the action spring, a word of caution is warranted. This spring is stiff and under pressure, so be sure to proceed accordingly. We'll do so by placing a finger over the rear of the housing to retain the plug while pushing out the crosspin with a punch. With the crosspin removed, we'll slowly relieve tension and remove the plug, action spring, and follower. Now move the bolt to the rear until the locking block latch pin is aligned with a cut on the lower edge of the ejection port. Then, while holding the bolt in place, flip the receiver over and lay it down on the bench block. Next, locate the access hole on the left side of the receiver and drive out the pin from left to right. Take care not to lose the locking block latch and its spring, as they'll drop free from the bottom of the bolt with the removal of this pin. With the pin removed, we can now move the bolt rearward while swinging the link bar forward. With the bolt to the rear, hold the operating handle and pull the bolt assembly out of the front of the receiver. With the bolt out, the operating handle is free to be removed. While the gun can be further disassembled, doing so for routine maintenance is unnecessary. So with that, we'll take a second to inspect all our parts for damage. Like I mentioned earlier, more often than not, you're going to find damaged screws. And what better time to replace them than now? Head over to Brownells.com today, where you'll find Browning factory parts backed by our 100% unconditional forever satisfaction guarantee.